Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Since One Piece entered its final phase, the level of debate among fans has reached a new level, with colossal battles, impactful revelations, and the return of legendary characters. It's natural for the community to become more demanding and critical. One of the most discussed topics recently is about the true strength of Luffy's crew. After the latest events in Elbaf, or Albaf as some are calling it, a doubt emerged that many fans did not expect to have. Could the Straw Hats be the weakest Yonko crew? This question intensified with the new manga chapter, which I will quickly summarize. In One Piece, chapter 1148, the Holy Knights deliver an ultimatum to the country of Elbaf, but the ones who truly show who's in charge are Nico Robin and Scopper Gaban. Gaban cuts off the arm of the Night Summers, but the surprise is that Summers can no longer regenerate, breaking the immortality of the Knights. This suggests that Luffy might learn something new, possibly an unprecedented level of haki. Meanwhile, a giant child tries to escape from the Knights, but is manipulated and walks towards a cliff. Nico Robin, overcoming her past traumas, faces Summers with her ability and strikes him with her 100-flower slap. Afterwards, Robin throws herself off Elbaf's tree with Summers, planning to distance him from the children to neutralize his invisible thorns since his power only works near them. In the chapter, Summers realizes Robin's plan and, upon activating his thorns to attack her, ends up piercing a clone, not the real Robin. The knight continues to fall while the clone disappears, leaving him to plunge into the abyss. The real Robin, unharmed, takes the opportunity to free the rest of the crew. What stands out is that, unlike previous times, the damage to the clone does not transfer to Robin. This raises the question, did she learn to control this weakness, or did something different happen? Despite Robin's efforts, Summers continues the battle, using his thorns to cling to Elbaf's clouds and pressure the kingdom. He issues an ultimatum trying to force the giants to surrender, but a little girl named Ronia surprises everyone by offering to sacrifice herself for Elbaf's future. While the giants are visibly desperate, some still show a willingness to fight, but in the end, the giant Jeru decides to surrender to the world government. The big question raised is that, despite Elbaf's reputation as the most powerful nation in the world, the giants, like Dory and Brogy, no longer seem so imposing. They no longer have a relevant role, and the country seems to be saved by figures like Robin and Gaban, rather than by the giants themselves. This raises doubts about the true strength of Elbaf. In the chapter, comparisons are made with the Wano arc, highlighting that although the Straw Hats were also primarily responsible for saving the country, in Wano, other characters, like the samurai, also played crucial roles as the first to stand up against Kaido. In Elbaf, on the other hand, the giants seem completely lost, doing nothing significant and needing to be saved by outsiders like Robin and Gaban. This raises the question, where is the real strength of the world's most powerful nation? When Summers captures Nico Robin again, something surprising happens. His arm is torn off without explanation, and upon realizing that his regeneration is not working, he is stunned. Before he can react, Scopper Gaban arrives and attacks Summers with his axe, piercing his chest. Haki sparks begin to glow on Summers' body, and the chapter ends with an epic scene of Gaban. Gaban's line, "It's been a long time," suggests that he and Summers may have met before, perhaps in God Valley, raising an interesting theory. The big question arises, how did Gaban break Summers' immortality with a haki strike, without any new or visually unknown ability? The answer may lie in an innovative application of haki. Haki, an internal energy that flows through humans, has several forms of use. Armament haki, for example, can be projected outside the body, penetrating the enemy's body. However, typically, haki has a temporary effect without permanently altering the nature of the enemy. This is the point that raises questions. How did Gaban manage, with his haki, to break Summers' immortality, something that would normally not be possible with traditional haki? When you apply a strike with haki, the impact is felt, but the interaction of the haki with the target is usually temporary, right? But what if I told you that Scopper Gaban has the ability to turn this temporary effect into something permanent and definitive? Yes, he could use his haki in a way that it remains locked in the enemy's body, preventing him from using his regenerative abilities. This would be a kind of blockage, as if Gaban's haki had created a barrier against Summers' immortality. And here we go. Ever since the Straw Hat crew was officially recognized as one of the Yonko forces, many fans have begun revisiting the fights and performances of its members with a more critical eye. With the advancement of the Elbaf arc and the emergence of extremely powerful enemies like the Holy Knights, this discussion seems to have gained even more strength. In particular, one idea has been frequently repeated, that even with the Yonko title, Luffy's crew might be the weakest among the 4 great pirate forces. I think this is a valid provocation reputation. And honestly, I even understand where this perception comes from. After all, it's hard to ignore that many of the Straw Hats have faced recent adversaries and were unable to defeat them without external help, or weren't even able to win in one-on-one battles. This raises the question, are they really, in practice, at the level of a Yonko crew? I believe part of this debate stems from a natural expectation that fans have carried for a long time. Since the first arcs of the series, the crew's growth has been closely followed. Each new Nakama came with a promise of evolution, strength, and importance within the narrative. When Luffy defeated Kaido, many saw that moment as the crowning of an entire journey of power. It was expected then that his companions would also be at their peak. But what we see in the current arc is a bit different. Members like Jinbe, Robin, and even Sanji have struggled against certain enemies. And instead of overcoming them alone, they have relied on external allies or strategic artifices to survive. A clear example of this is the fight against the Holy Knight Summers. Several members of the crew, including Robin, tried to take him on, but the one who really turned the tide was Scoffer Gaban, a legendary figure who isn't even part of the Straw Hats. I think this somewhat weakens the image of a consolidated crew. If the members of a Yonko crew themselves can't defeat opponents on their own, doubts about their strength become inevitable. Even more so when we remember that in other Yonko crews, like Whitebeard's or Kaido's, the commanders and officers were real powerhouses. Marco, King, Katakuri, all of them had a weight and a presence in combat that demanded immediate respect. With the Straw Hats, aside from Zoro and maybe Sanji, it's possible that the rest still don't inspire that same confidence. Of course, this doesn't mean they're weak. Actually, I believe what's at stake here isn't exactly raw power, but rather how Oda chooses to tell his story. The narrative structure of One Piece has always valued collective overcoming more than individual strength. Luffy was never someone who won alone. He always counted on his companions, local allies, emotional factors, and often even chance. The same goes for the other members of the crew. I think this is an intentional choice, which has more to do with the central values of the work than with power itself. But even so, I understand those who get frustrated seeing a character like Jinbe being captured more than once, or Nami constantly needing to be rescued. On the other hand, it's possible that all of this is intentional. Oda is a master at balancing expectation and delivery. Perhaps he's holding back the big moments for characters like Usopp, Frankie, Brook, and even Nami herself for the final arcs of the story. After all, the direct confrontation against the world government is yet to come. If we consider that the Gorosei, the Admirals, and even Imu are in the way, it may be that the author is saving the definitive versions of the Straw Hats for these battles. I believe Robin, for example, will still use her demonic form in an impactful way, and Usopp will have his moment of courage, the kind that will make everyone shut up. Despite that, there's no denying that the Yonko title carries a responsibility. In that sense, Luffy's crew may still be at a disadvantage. Blackbeard's crew, for example, is full of powerful devil fruit users. Shanks's crew, even without devil fruits, is made up of exceptional fighters who have faced legendary pirates. Kaido's crew was practically an army with lethal officers at every level. And then we have the Straw Hats with only 10 permanent members, many of whom still rely on tricks, luck, or alliances to win. It's understandable that, in light of this, part of the fandom sees them as the weakest Yonko crew. Even so, there's no denying that when the situation gets tough, the Straw Hats surpass themselves. Robin's strategy in Elbaf was brilliant. The plan to throw Summers into the abyss, using clones and deceiving the enemy, was worthy of the intelligence always attributed to her. And even more impressive was seeing that she possibly overcame the weakness of her devil fruit by making the clones no longer transmit damage to the real body. This shows that they are indeed evolving. But instead of showing this in pure impact scenes and definitive victories, Oda chooses to do it more subtly, more symbolically. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.